Igor from the Rangers, the goalie, getting this deal and turning it down. And you and I had our feelings about just like goalie dynamics and, team players who hold out for contracts and how that tends to disrupt team dynamics. And like, that's the lens we looked at it from. And then I went and told Dan, like, excitedly, oh, we recorded this podcast. We talked about Igor. And he was like, well, did you talk about this? And did you know about that? And did you think about this angle? And like we mentioned, right? Like we don't know the sports agent of it all, but he had all these other insights. And I momentarily was like, should we cut that segment? Because like maybe we don't know enough. And that was my imposter syndrome talking about like our experience and our interest in sports and our lens being invalid because
Oh,
men tend to know so much more about like some of these details or they follow like the logistics, and we're just like, I don't want to really do the logistics of it. I want to think about the human analysis of it, right? And so
oh.
I had that moment and I was like, I need to bring this up with me.
That's hit me right in the heart because what you're calling imposter syndrome is my my equivalent experience is I think, oh, I don't belong here
Hmm.
because I don't actually know all the data. I don't know the numbers. I am going to say things on this podcast that are incorrect. That's just it is what it is.
Yeah, 100%. We're gonna make mistakes, I'm sure.
Yes. But the imposter syndrome piece, P, I think is probably what many women experience in the sports space,
Hmm.
particularly when you're new and trying to kind of get up to speed on what the whole thing is. You kind of want to do it in secret. Practice. It's like when you go to a gym and there's always like people just like with the weights and they're looking at their routine on their phone and they've got gloves to hold these barbells and you're like, what?
Yeah, or even like, remember that video of that woman? She's like a pro golfer who was like practicing at a driving range, and then that dude comes up to her and he's like, you should try it this way. And she's like, yeah, I'm just practicing this specific thing, but I know what
Yep.
I'm doing. Like, you know that there's always going to be someone who knows more, probably most likely a man, who's going to come in and be like, well, you didn't talk about this, this, and this. And it's like, we might not be for them, but I hope that we are because I think that we are trying to look at things the way that we genuinely look at things, which might not be the typical way.
100% P. And here's what I want to say about your experience of imposter syndrome, which is you have permission to practice and to use this podcast as practice. We are I'll be honest, I'm coming to these episodes with half-baked ideas. And most of the time I'm just processing it out with you. And maybe in the end I'll be like, oh, maybe that is my opinion. Or maybe through the end I'll be like, I'm actually questioning what I came in with.
Yeah,
When it comes to this particular to this sport or to this idea. And I think the other piece of it is with this imposter syndrome is you're also allowed to change your mind. Your perspective and mindset are allowed to change and evolve, which doesn't feel like the sports world in general gives you permission for that.
totally. That, and I feel like my journey with sports has been, over the past 10 years, primarily a learning one. And
Hmm.
that journey is ongoing because it often doesn't come intuitively to me, some of the understanding. And so I like that. I like that I'm constantly learning about something new and seeing new angles to it that might be really old hat for some people. And so it's cool that this podcast can hopefully be a place for me to continue that learning process kind of with an audience following along.
I hope so, P. And I want you to tell me what I can do to create a space where I feel like you can practice with me because
I
I
I think that's what I've been doing in my whole friendship with you. I think you have already been providing that space and we're just trying to make that space into like now a product.
um I'm so happy you said that. That makes me feel really, really good. And I also just want to share that part of this is we want to stay focused and engaged with each other and with our guests. And there are podcasts where they're live Googling things and live fact checking things. And
That's true.
sure, like I could give our audience all these numbers right away by just doing a quick search while we're recording, but how much of a real conversation is that with you and with our guest? And if there are, sure, if we have audience members who really care about that stuff, like please, while listening to us, pull up your browser and go for it, look it up. I'm welcome to folks being like, you got this number wrong, or here's something that would be helpful. But for me, I actually get disengaged in conversations as soon as the phone is pulled out or someone wants to fact
Totally.
check something or Google something.
Yeah.
So the uncertainty I have to tolerate is I might be wrong in the moment, but the benefit is I'm still staying engaged and connected to the folks I'm talking to.
Yeah. And as with anything, I think there's no one right way to see any of this stuff, even though there is data and there are facts and there is news. I think everything is up for question these days. So I think our interpretation, we just have to remember that it's valid. So I'm glad that you can share that with me.
Of course, and P, for what it's worth, around your imposter syndrome, this half the time we're talking about sports entertainment and not just
Hmm.
sports.
Yeah.
And you are the fucking expert when it comes to the entertainment part of it all. Like,
Aw.
talk about rumor mills, talk about this is 100% what the sports world can be. And there is no one I know who's better at being on top of that than you.
Thank you. I do have a penchant for reality TV, and what else is sports than that?
100%. 100%. Thanks for bringing that up, P. That's like,
Amazing.
I think that's really helpful for us to continue to debrief that stuff after every episode because we're we're learning and the best way to learn is to reflect on it.